2, 1, action. Well, good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to open up with a little number here for you, and what I need you to do, it's not really that important. It's just a little fun thing just to see if we can figure it out. But I'm going to open with a little number here, and I want you to see if you can guess the name of the style. So here we go. Put this camera here. Is that a better view there?
Oh, that looks great.
Okay, because I have it on gallery. So
The bottom of the stand now.
What's that? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We don't want that in our recording. How's that? Is that
Ooh,
better?
pretty.
Okay, here we go. Well, does anybody know the style that I used to play that? You raising your hand, Mary?
Yes, but I'm guessing because I don't see it on the Odyssey, but it sounds to me like a jazz or a blues tune.
Well, it is a jazz, or it kind of sounded jazzy and bluesy, but it is a style that's on an Odyssey, actually. Believe it or not.
Then I would say swing is my next choice.
That would be a good. You're on the right track. It's the right category, but the style that I use. Go ahead, Jeanette.
Smoky Lounge?
Nope. It almost sounds like it, doesn't it? All right. Well, we'll have a little fun here. I'm going to put the same style on now, and just use your regular rhythm preset, 0 position, and I'm just going to hit a C chord, and tell me if this sounds familiar. Now, when I hear that intro, I want to play. Does anybody know the name of that style? Sean knows it. The name of that style is called harmonic cats, and that particular rhythm, when you have just regular rhythm preset 0, gives you the it's the harmonic cats version of Peg of My Heart. So that's what I did, is I put on the harmonic cats, but it didn't sound anything like the harmonic cats. So what I did was I chose the style, and then I went in and I pushed big band number 2. Most of you might have that button on yours. Your big band category, number 2. And big band number 2 gives me a breathy sax on the top keyboard, which is what you heard. However, I had to take it a step further, because the song I played was Summertime, or I tried to play it. So that was Summertime, and it's in a minor key. So if you take that rhythm style and you put on an A minor, it sounds like that. Now, it'll work like that, and it won't sound like Peg of My Heart, But I went a step further and I took off the Orchestra Plus button. Okay? You have something to say, Sean?
No, I just said, ooh,
Oh, okay.
for effect.
So, I put on, he's one of my biggest cheerleaders here, best cheerleaders. All right, so I chose, it's on the swing category in most of the models, I believe. So the Harmonicats was the style. I started off with your rhythm preset 0. Then what I did is I turned off the Orchestra Plus. So what happens now is the band, this, watch what happens when I turn it off midway. Okay, and you may have heard this in many of the classes. Genie is comprised of many musicians, okay, or the Orchestra Plus rather. Genie's usually one instrument. So I took off all the musicians and left just the genie. In this case, it was a guitar player. And then I went to my big band category over here, number 2, which happened to give me that breathy saxophone. And then I got this effect. And interestingly enough, if someone, even those who know their instrument very well, would normally not guess that I used a Harmonicat style. All right? Now, since I did all of that, if you notice while I was telling you what I was doing, I was pushing a few buttons. The cool thing is that these organs have the ability to save your settings. Now, there's also something really cool about models, the Legacy, the Holiday Classic, what did I say, the Premier, I think is listed in here. The Odyssey does it the same as well, but there's a little bit, it's something a little bit different with that, and I'll tell you in a moment. What else? Premier. Okay, so the Premier, Legacy, Holiday Classic, those 3 models. Anything that has a storage device, meaning a USB or floppy disk, you can save them on the instrument and then take it a step further and save it on your storage device. I say that because the Legacy and the Premier uses a, what is that, a 3.5 inch they call that, Sean? Floppy? Yes? And then the USB basically could do a lot more. But the beauty of that is, and this may sound like a sales pitch, but it really isn't, is that over time, people do upgrade once in a while. And I know a few of you might have upgraded an organ once or twice over your hobby career. Pat is putting up, the screen's not big enough for all your fingers. 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, something like that. Okay, so the beauty is that anything that you save on these models can be transferred up. Okay, that's just an aside. But I have a setup that I just told you what I did, and I chose something not too complex. I will turn off this, turn this on, that preset. But now, if I wanted to go back and teach this again, as I moved around and come back to that setting, I'd have to set it up every time. Well, I don't want to do that. So what I'd like to do is save it on the preset. Now, if you can see, let me see if this camera view is a little better, because I have this one set up on there. Can you see the A/B on that? Is that okay? Should I get a little closer?
That looks good.
Okay. So right here, you'll notice there's an A and a B, followed by a rhythm preset and then 10 other buttons. Okay? Oh, that's even better than my camera view. So what model is that one? Looks like
That's the Legacy.
the Legacy one. Okay. So a lot of the organs have those general presets in there. And what the general presets do is they're just that. They're 10 great presets, from organ sounds to string sounds to chimes, vocals, etc. All right. Then on the right of that, you'll notice that there's what we call category presets, and you see his mouse moving around. Catch that mouse. And there we go. And so we have country, big band, Latin, and scared. Sacred. I got to squint. I should have worn my glasses. And what that does is simply is when you push big band, and you press the 10 buttons, you'll get 10 different presets. That is instruments you would find in a big band, etc., etc. On the A and the B, oh, you want to circle the rhythm preset. Let's talk about that then. The rhythm preset, which is very clever. At one time in Lowry's career, what rhythm preset does is when you select a big band, country, Latin, whatever, and you push rhythm preset, you get one setup that's perfect for that style of music. All right? On some of the models, what it'll do, and I'll ramble off a few, so I may not get them all. Odyssey, Regency, Encore, Holiday, Classic, Legacy, Premier. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but those models have the same concept. And obviously, anything above that, it even grows exponentially. So what happens is when you press that rhythm preset with a style, be it a big band or a Latin or soft and easy or polka, whatever the case is, when you have the rhythm preset selected, it gives you one great setup for that style. While it's pressed and you press numbers 1 through 10, you'll get 10 other setups that are perfect for that style. So if I put on, actually, since I'm not going to mess up the organ over here, I'm going to come over to the Legacy since the camera's there. So here's an example. I'm going to have a big band style on. And while I'm playing, this is the setup I get. Okay. Turn that down a couple notches. So as I'm playing, I'm going to hit a different preset, and I'll just call it out because it's a whole nother class. And I'll tell you the type of sound you're going to get on some of these as I'm playing it. But it caters to this style. Something a little easy on number 1. Number 2, something a little more is what they call it. Three will always give you an organ sound. Again, these presets are changing with rhythm preset just for the Chicago swing style. Organ. String, bells and whistles, solo, vocal, piano, ensemble, finale. Now if I push country, I'm not going to play them all, but if I push country, whatever style I have on there, let's see here, those 10 presets are now going to change for country. So as you can see, those presets are changing accordingly to the style that I've chosen. All right. Now, on A and B, if you want to put that manual back up, that page there, and then we'll come back to the screen on the organ. So on A and B, if you have A and B, what comes by default from the factory is 2 great organ settings. And I'm going to put this organ back to the factory setting. Give me a second. So when I demonstrate a few of those, give me a second. So bank A, when you press A, it's considered what they call a bank preset, and B is a bank preset as well. Hope I did this right. You guys don't have to keep hearing this sound. Okay. All right, I did them back to factory. Okay, so bank A and bank B come with some sounds already. And we basically just say, oh, it says it right there. It says when you push A 1 through 10, you'll get 10 great organ sounds that they consider the Sweet Lowry organ sounds. So they're 10 great different combinations of good old-fashioned organ sounds. If you push the B bank, they call them jazz organ sounds. Now, folks, what that basically means is they give you the type of sound you would find that was very common on the Hammond organ days, where you used a whole different concept and the Leslie speakers and so forth. So what Lowry did is they, through the technology, and they can't say a Hammond type sound, because I think if they used that word, they would have had to pay some royalties or something like that. But what they did is they created the sound of the same effect like you would have heard on the Hammond organs, and they label them jazz. All right. So now that we're there, let me go back. I'll just play a couple of these so you can see this. All right. I'm going to have to move my bench over and sneak my foot in there. Oh, I can't see you. Let me just turn it this way in case. All right. So as I push A, and I don't know if you could see it in there, you'll notice that the colors of the tabs on the A's are red, every one of these. And so you get these really nice, just some really nice, pretty organ sound. And I'm just bouncing around, no rhyme or reason. Now, when I push the B bank, now watch this. Here's A1, and it gives me a 16 and an 8-foot organ flute, and it sounds like this. Now let's see if you can hear the difference online here. I'm going to push the B bank, the same two organ flute settings, and it turned green. Can you see the green in the picture there a little bit? Kinda?
Yeah.
Okay. Now listen to the difference. Here's A again. Here's B. So same setup, but it sounds different. And as I go through these, whoops, ran out of note there. I know some of you said you had a symphony, some of the bigger models. That's kind of nice having that a little extra octave there, so I went to play a note. Anyway, so as you noticed, as I was playing, I played A and B. Now, let's talk about A and B and now what we can do to that. Now, this, folks, applies to everybody. Now, if you don't have an A or B bank, I think like an Odyssey has it, does not have an A or B bank, you can save your own presets. I don't know if someone has an Odyssey on here. You can save your own presets, very similar to what we're doing. The difference is you won't save it into A or B. All right? So what I'm going to show you is how to save a preset onto one of these models. And just remember that to eliminate, if you have an Odyssey, obviously A or B won't apply. All right? So what I did is I came up with a setting beforehand very quickly, and then when I was done, I had to explain it to you and I had to set it all up again. But it'd be nice if we could just push a button. That's where A and the B bank comes in handy. You can store your own presets. And I know some of you have a Prestige Plus now, or are going to have a Prestige. Some of you have the Symphony. You have A, B, C, D, and E. So you could save up to 50 plus setups on those models. On the A and the B, you have 10 each. And by the way, if you have the A series, there is one other setup. If you want to make a note, you can also save a preset on A0. Okay? On the SE series that has a bank preset, you save them on 1 through 10. So what I'm going to do is I have this setup that I really liked, and I'm going to save it. So on the Holiday Classic, we'll kind of do this together. And I don't know if they have that in our owner's manual, but
Yep, got that.
oh, okay. So what I'm going to do is the first thing we have to do is when you have a setup, now just to show of hands or nods, you ever find a sound in the organ you don't like? Like you experiment and you go, that. Not many of you are raising your hands. You must be pros at this. Oh, wait. Now they're all raising their hand. Now, let me ask you this. You ever experiment a little bit and come up with a sound and you go, oh, that's actually not that bad. It happens, right? And then if you do what a lot of people do, you take your paper out and you write everything down, and guess what? It doesn't always come back 100%, does it? That's what saving presets on the organ does for you, okay? Because once you save it on there and you turn it off and come back later, unless you do a total reset, it'll remain on that instrument. So that's why I always encourage students, you can experiment all you want. If you don't like it, you could just start over. But if you do like it, the last thing you want to do is lose it. So here's what we do. So in this case, I have a setup that I like. The first thing I'm going to do is push memorize. Okay? Now when I do that on this, and I'm going to do one on each model here, okay? When I do that, a screen pops up here and it says memorizing to. So what it's basically waiting for me to do is it's kind of asking me, where do you want to memorize this to? Well, your choices are A or B. All right? If you have an Odyssey, actually, there might be some folks with a director, because I did say if you had a director, a Century, a Fiesta, Jubilee, those models, it would be the same thing. The difference is you will not select a letter. So make a note if you caught all that. If you have a letter on your instrument, the next thing you do is you tell it, I'm going to save this preset to either A or B. For starters, oh, look at that. Ooh. So I have the setup that I like before I do anything. Literally, if you find a sound you like, before you do anything, stop. Don't touch a thing. Press and release the red color memorize button. And when I do that, that screen will pop up. Memorizing to. Okay? Whew. Now what do? I'm afraid to mess it up. I don't know if it's on the next page. I'll show it on here. Then I tell it a letter, A or B. So now on this case, I'm going to just start with A. And when I do that, ooh. Hold on one second. Okay. So if you look on the screen there, it says I'm going to say, what I did is I pressed memorize. I pressed A. Now, in the example that you see in that picture there, if I press 1. Now, it'll default, by the way, make a note. If you have the ability to save a 0 preset, it'll default to 0. Okay? See that 1 there? Right now, my screen says 0 because I haven't pressed any number yet. So that means any A series models will default to a 0 if you have an A or B. Okay? A lot of people actually like to save their preset on 0. I, for some reason, have never been a fan of it. I don't know why. probably because if I save it on 0, if I ever am playing a song and I go to want to decide to use my presets, the minute I push A, if it's in 0 position, it automatically switches. That's just a preference. So I'll start off with 1. So I'm going to press 1. And now my screen says memorizing to preset A1. Bring back the screenshot, please. So now my screen says memorizing to A1. Now, you have 2 other questions there. And it says with style, with transpose. Now, it says yes on the screen, but folks, it always defaults to the word no. And what it's asking me is, do I want to save this setup with a style? Most of the time the answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. It's because if I have a swing, what is it, harmonic cats, and I turn off the orchestra plus, and I did that sort of stuff with it, I actually like the rhythm style. So I want to save this preset with the saxophone that I chose, and I changed the orchestra plus, and I made a couple changes. I want to save the rhythm style. And here's the other neat thing. When you save the rhythm style, it automatically saves the tempo. So whatever tempo I had at this time, it will save that as well. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to save to with style. Now this is the part I haven't done in a while. I'm going to hit the scroll button. Is that it, Sean? Oh, whew. Yes. Okay. All right. Pay very close attention to this, especially if you have a holiday classic. This gets a little tricky on the holiday classic. If I want to save the style, okay, that was on the window, I hit the scroll down. And it says yes. If I want it back to no, I hit the scroll down. If I want to change back to yes on with a style, I hit the scroll down. So the scroll down arrow takes care of the with style. So I'm going to hit yes. Now the next one on the screen says with transpose. Now it says no, I don't want to save it with the transpose, but if I did, I'd hit the scroll up, and it changes to yes. Okay? Now, if I turn it up again, it'll go back to no. All right? So right now, my screen says memorizing preset A1 with a style yes, with transpose no. Now there's one last step, and this is the step that most people forget to do, and it causes a lot of headaches because if they forget to do this step and then they go to play and hit a preset, then it's gone, and now I have to reset up the whole thing. And this is the most important step, actually, is that you confirm it. So you see there, in that example, it says memorizing to A1 with a style. That screen says yes. I have mine on no, but that's a preference. And then the last step that he is telling you to do, he's underlining it, says press the red memorize. And then when you do that, it'll say memorized to A1. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is press memorized, and my screen says exactly what it says, memorized to preset A1. Okay? Now, before I go any further, questions?
I do. I
Who
do have
said
a
that?
question.
Who said that? Inez? Okay.
Mary
I
and
do have a
and Mary.
question. Mary said, I don't know where you get the A and B from. I know where the memorize button is and the transpose, but I don't see where you push A if you want preset A1. I mean, I have
What
no
model do
A
you
on my
have?
board.
What model do you have?
The Odyssey.
Okay, on the Odyssey, it does not have the A or B. So when you go to save a preset, everything applies with the exception of A.
so just touch the number 1, etc.
Just number 1.
Right.
Yep.
So you would do the same thing. What you do is you set it up. Just remember this. Before you save a preset, make sure you like the setup that you have, all right? When
Right.
you're actually going to go save it, you press memorize,
Okay.
and then the screen will pop up. Now, because you don't have A or B, it's not going to give you that option. So then you skip A or B, and then the next thing you do is you press a number.
Mhm.
Now,
Okay.
I started with 1 because this is the first setup that I'm saving. Now, keep
Okay.
in mind that on the Odyssey, you have 8 general presets that are really nice presets in there.
Right. There's
You have an
8.
organ, you have a church organ, there's a theater, there's strings, there's chimes. When you save a setup, you're going to save it over one of those presets.
Okay.
So what I will encourage people to do with an Odyssey is we want to save a setup, save it over one that you may not use a lot. Like, I love the sound of the chimes on number 5, but I don't use it a lot. You know, it's a rare sound that I use because I don't have a lot of
Right.
songs. Okay.
Right.
And that, but everything else is going to apply the same. You're going to press memorize, a number, and then you're going to be asked to save it with a style or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to ask all the same stuff. The last thing you have to remember to do on saving a preset on any organ that allows you to save a preset is you confirm it by pressing the memorize button.
Okay. So you press the memorize button in the beginning and you press the memorize button at the end.
Correct. And in the middle, you have to press a
Okay.
number that you want to save it on. Choose if you want to save the style, what have you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay.
Inez?
Okay, hold on. Okay, now on the symphony, if you have bank A through E, do you
Yep.
have to save on A or can you save on E?
Well, yeah, you don't have to save on any bank in particular. Like on
Okay.
here, I have A or B. I could start off on B. I can
Okay.
save it on any bank that you can save it on any bank you want.
Okay,
Okay,
yep. Thank you.
Stephen,
The
you were
steps
raising your
that,
hand. You're going
yeah,
like this. Okay.
the steps that I sometimes forget is that after you've memorized it, then you need to save it to your disk, in my case, disk, or
I'm
into the
not there.
USB.
I'm not there yet. You're jumping ahead of me.
Well, don't forget it.
No, but that's a good point. And I'm going to point that out at the end here because there's a couple different options on these. But yes, you have up to so many presets you can save on the model. So if you have A, you can save up to 10 or 11 depending on your instrument. If you have B, you can save up to another 10 or 11. If you have C, D, and E, you can do that up to 50 or 55 times. It depends on how many, what model you have. And then eventually you want to get it onto the floppy or the USB. So yes, because if you reset the organ, then that goes away. Because those organs have some really nice settings in there. We want to take them back to the factory. All right. So hold that thought, Stephen.
One more from Helen.
Yes.
Yes. After you've saved it and you shut the organ off and the next day you come back and you want to play it, what do? Just push that A button?
Well, theoretically, I should just go back and push the preset that I saved it on.
Like if you saved it on A?
So let's, first of all, before I turn it off, I'm just going to push A1 and see if my setup is there. This is the setup that I wanted to save. Oops, that's for the intro. Okay, now let me push A1 and see what happens. Okay, so it even saved the intro because that's what I had on. All right, so that setup is there now. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn off the organ. Oh my goodness. Hope I didn't lose anything. If I did, I should have done what Steve told me to do, save it on the USB. And then I'm going to have to apologize for jumping ahead. Oh my goodness. What am I going to do? Let's see. Turn it on. In theory, what should happen is that when you turn it back on, it should remain on the instrument. Okay? So give it time to power up. And I'm going to push A1. Okay, so there the setup is there. So the answer is yes. It'll remain there until you reset the organ, and it should remain there for a long time, and it should never go away. Now, keyword is it shouldn't. These are computers, so every now and then they tend to do what they want to do. But theoretically, that setup will stay there until I either reset it or save another setup on it, or if I put some setups in there. Okay?
But then you could use that one on a different song without having that set up.
You can use that setup
Just like
anytime.
you do otherwise.
Yeah, so I push A1, but A1 is programmed there, so now that's the preset that's in there.
Okay.
Okay? Now on the legacy, the same steps apply. If I can just pick my right video here. So I'm not going to put all the same setup, but what I'll do is I'll put on the harmonic cats. There's a harmonic cats. Or how about autumn keys? I'll just try something else. So here's autumn keys, which normally sounds like this. That's like the exact introduction of Autumn Leaves. Well, I'm going to take off the Orchestra Plus. I'm going to play the same song. I'm going to put the tempo, though, at 80. I'm going to make some changes. Let's see here. Let me put on big band. This time, instead of a saxophone, I'll put on the guitar. I'm going to put on my dynamic keying. If you have a dynamic keying button, that basically it gives you the touch sensitivity. So the harder or softer you hit the notes. Okay, and I'm going to try this out now. All right, that's a similar setup, and I go, oh, you know what? I like that. So what am I going to do? What's the first button I push first, everybody? Students, not staff.
Memorize.
Memorize. All right. Now what do I do? If I don't have a letter, I push a number. If I have a letter A or B, then what do I do?
A.
A
A1.
or B or C or D or E, depending what letters you have. You pick a letter.
1.
Okay. Now on this organ, it says a similar stuff. It's a little different here. It says memorizing to preset A. Now I can't save it onto 0, so I have to push a number from 1 through 10. For the purpose of the class, I'm just going to push 1. And now, actually, I'm going to take you on a little ride. Woo! Wee. I have to do the sound effects when I do that.
Style, yes.
All right. So in this case, it says memorizing to preset A1. So I've got that part. Now you see the arrow down and the arrow up. Just like the Holiday Classic, it's telling me scroll down for yes with. Now watch when I do it again.
Oh,
See?
okay.
I'm going to keep it on with. If I hit the up, then it's going to go to transpose with. In this case, it says with. I just keep hitting the up arrow until I get it to where I want it. Now when I'm done, I got a preset A1 with a style. I don't want the transpose. Now what do I do?
Memorize.
Memorize.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes.
100%, because if I do this, that's it. Okay. So over here, I'm going to push the memorize button, and when I press it, memorize to A1.
A1.
Okay? So essentially, it gives me the exact same setup. on A1. And the process starts over. And this is great, like if you have Christmas songs that you're working on, or soft songs or ballads, maybe you want to do a medley or something like that. The idea is that you can always go, you get a setup, save it on A1, save it on A2, etc. And then maybe on the B bank, if you have it, put a whole nother group of setups on there. Okay? Now, before I go to the next step, any questions?
No, it's all right.
Judy, I think I see your hand raising. Judy C. Can't hear you. You hit the unmute.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. What is transposing really all about? I mean,
Okay, transpose is a totally different feature. All that does is the term means basically it's changing keys. So if you've ever heard anybody say transpose in the key of B flat, most of our music is in the key of C or F, easy play. I play all my songs in the key of C or F. When I play music, I basically transpose a lot. A lot of times you transpose because I want to sing along and the notes are a little too high for me. And maybe I want to sing a song, Summertime, and maybe it's too high for me. So I'll use the transpose. Summertime. That's a lot
Okay.
easier to sing. Sometimes people change it because they want to be in a different key. Or maybe the notes are too, or maybe the sound is too high and I want to transpose it. Or maybe I'm losing a trombone or low sounds and I want to play them down here. Actually, I kind of liked it down there. Sometimes I have a song where I play in a specific key. That's when I want to save that transpose. So it just depends on what, if you're using that a lot for a song, that might be something you'll want to do on the when you're saving a preset. But here's the thing what you want to keep in mind. If you're saving a group of presets, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of them. If you save that second preset in a key where you transpose it, you've got to kind of keep that in mind, because if you're playing in a song, let's say it's in C on your organ, you're on A1, and then you go to number 2 and it was saved to B flat, guess what's going to happen? It's going to transpose down and it's going to sound funny. So I only save the transpose option when most of my presets are going to be in that same key with no changes. Usually, my first preset is the one that I save the transpose. When I play the song Through the Eyes of Love, theme from Ice Castles, when I play Somewhere Out There, those ballads, I transpose it down 2 half steps. My first preset is in B flat. I specifically save that preset in B flat. The other 9 presets, I did not save it with a transpose. But that's okay, because the first one is initially doing the transpose. The rest of them will stay in the same key because it doesn't change. Does that make any sense? Okay, that's a personal preference I have. Sean?
I was going to say, I like to save it on all of them just so it's consistent and I don't accidentally, like if I want to play, maybe the middle of the song, practice the middle of the song, it's in the key I like to do it rather than, C.
So in his case, he likes to do it that way because of the way the song is. And here's the question is, why would you only save it on one preset? Here's why I do it. When I play a song, halfway through the song, 3 or 4 times, I tend to transpose up a half step manually. I tend to do that a lot, and I don't always do it in the same place. So I got the first preset in the key that I want while I'm playing. A lot of times, partway through the song, I'll transpose up a half a step. And then maybe when I'm playing along, then I'll do it again somewhere else. Sometimes I don't. So if I save some of those presets in all the same key and I transpose up a half step and don't realize it and I go back to the next preset, then it jumps around. That's just the way I do it. If you're doing it like what he said, where he plays the whole song in that key, well, then he's going to save it that way. Okay, Helen?
You spoke of the harmonic cat?
The rhythm that I set up in the beginning.
Yeah, but what is that and where is it?
What organ do you have?
The Sterling.
It's on the same place on all the organs. It's on the swing category.
Oh, you have to push in swing to get it.
If you go to your swing rhythm category,
Okay.
it's in one of the variations on the swing category in all of the models.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
It's almost the same variation on all of them, but one of the models they move it to a different place.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, but that's the Harmony Cats, which is modeled after the band the Harmonic Cats, who did the famous recording of "Peg in My Heart," and that's why that introduction sounds like that. Now, I kind of said that Steve jumped ahead a little bit, but he came up with a very, very important point, because here's what happens. Some people are like, well, I don't know how to use the saving the presets. I mean, once you do it once and you do it twice, then you start realizing, you know what? Next time I have a good setup, I'm going to save it. Or maybe I want to come up with a group of setups. The next step is, and it's a whole other class, but I'll just show you in short on one of the models here. The next step is to actually save it onto the USB. Okay? So, or the floppy disk if that's what you have it. Now, I know some of you have the Sterling, the Symphony, the touchscreen models. What I'll tell you is when you're saving a preset onto that and your screen pops up, you do not have to press the scroll down arrow button. You touch the screen. Okay? So all of the touchscreen models, for those of you who have the touchscreen models, I'm referring to the models that don't. So when I have to save it with a style or not a style, I have to use that scroll option. If you have the touchscreen, when you go memorize A and the number comes up, you press the number, on the screen it'll say with a style or not, okay? You touch the screen. So just kind of keep that in mind, all right? So now what happens is, as I'm saving presets onto the organ, they're on the organ. They're not on the floppy disk. They're not on the USB. Okay? If you don't reset the organ, they'll remain there. But eventually, you will run out of presets to save on the instrument if you do this over time. So what a lot of us will do is when we get a group of setups or sounds, is what we'll do is take it from here and transferring it to that or that. Okay? They serve the same purpose. They do the same thing. The USB just can do a lot more. You can put more information on it, but ultimately they work the same way. Okay? And there's another step for that. And just to give you a hint of how that works, I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to tell you, call your personal assistant and set up a time and how to do that, because it's worth it to do that, because eventually people save setups on their USB or their floppy. And then the beauty is, then you'll never lose it. I'm a little bit more obsessive with mine. I have one stick that has roughly 35 groups of presets. That's up to 50 presets per group. And I have this little thing that I wear around my neck so it stays there. And then what I do is I put it in my computer, and I put like 2 or 3 copies on my computer, and then I have 2 or 3 other sticks because I don't ever want to lose it. All right. But again, a whole nother class on how to save it to the USB or the floppy disk, but I'll give you the short version. Now here's the cool thing, because these organs all have an option to do what's called format. all right? The floppy disk and the USB. The minute you save something onto a USB or floppy disk, it automatically formats it for you. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. So in this case here, let me switch over to this model. I have a floppy in. I want to, let's say, pretend just say I set up like 3, 4, 5 different setups. Now here's the other cool thing. I have a setup there. And you can go and you can build from there. Let's say I'm going to put on some strings. Okay, I like that setup. I'm going to save it on the next preset. So I'm going to do what first? Memorize. Let me hear you. Memorize. What letter?
A.
A. And now what number do I do?
Whatever one you want.
Well, in this case, I was on 1. I'm definitely going to do it there. I want to continue on. You can do it on whenever you want. I'll just go to the next one in this case. Number 2, I'm going to save it with a style and then memorize. And then I play along. And I change that and I push this. And I go, oh, I like that. And I'm going to do memorize. What letter?
A.
Okay. What number is
1.
next? 3.
2.
Well, I did 1 and I did 2, so I'm going to go to number 3 now.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm going to go save it with a style and then memorize. So just remember, memorize a letter, a number, choose with a style or not, and then memorize. All right. Now I got 3 or 4 settings there. Let's see. All right, so that's, now, what I want to do is save it from the organ to the floppy. I'm not going to go in detail on this because this is going to be a whole nother hour class, but this is the part where I'm going to tell you, get with your PA and tell them, I learned how to save presets on my organ. Now, how do I save it onto the USB? Okay, so, but in short, I'm going to hit feature on this model. Now, if you have the touch screen, it's a little easier, obviously. You know, many of you have the touch screen. Some of you have Imperials or Prestige. You just touch the screen for the USB option, okay? But for those of you who don't, you hit feature, and you go to, on this model has a disk. So I find the word that says disk, and then I hit enter. On the Holiday Classic behind me, it says USB. All right. Do we have a manual for the Legacy by chance or no?
Yeah, I've been trying to find that particular.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue real quickly, and then maybe he find it. He'll actually, let me do this. I'm going to take you on a little ride again. Whee! I don't only do that because I figured it might make you nauseous, but maybe if I put some fun sound effects, it'll take it away. So here it says feature. And it comes up to this, and I scroll to disk, and then I hit enter. It says presets. Now this is the part where people get confused. I don't want to load presets. I want to save them from the organ to the floppy. Loading is once it's already on the disk, and I want to load them from the disk to the organ. So I'm going to scroll. See it? I can format it. But remember what I told you earlier. It'll automatically format it when we do this. Delete, I don't want to delete, rename, copy, delete, rename, save presets. You know, if I'd have gone up, I probably would have got there faster. So I'm going to go to where it says save presets and then hit enter. And on this disk, it happens to have something on it. You'll notice number 2 came up. Someone must have saved a group of presets on here. So that's cool. So it went to the next spot. If it's blank, that means there's nothing there. You can save it on any number on the disk. Now at this point, folks, this bottom keyboard turns into a typewriter. Now in the manual, it tells you what these letters do. And what I'm going to do is turn off the rhythm and turn off the left-hand sound, because if you type this, now watch this. I'm going to type. Oh, wait a second. Let me do something wrong here. Okay. Let me go back here. So when I press enter, let me go back. Feature, disk. I want to save presets. I hit enter, and then I find the one that I want to do it on, number 2. Then I hit enter, and now it's telling me to type. See right here? I can name this group. I can leave it like that or type it. Now I'm going to hit some random keys on the bottom. Now watch what happens. See that? Now in the book it tells you what all those letters mean. You can type whatever one you want, and then you can move over to, you can move the cursor over, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a space bar that goes over. I forget where it is. There it is. See the cursor moving? And you can go in and save the preset. Okay? Now I'm just putting random letters here. Huh? Am I steady enough?
Good. I can put up the what the alphabet looks like on the
Okay, go ahead and do that.
keyboard. Kind of looks like this.
That'll give me a chance to go to the other organ here.
Okay.
So you have that in your manual. So when you want to type, now I will tell you this, you're using the bottom keyboard when you do this. So remember, it's going to make some sound. Sometimes I'll turn off the lower sound just so I don't have to keep hearing the noises. But all right. Now over here on the USB, what did I do with my Oh, there it is. Okay. On the USB, it's been a while since I did it here, so let's go step by step. So I hit feature. Oh, on this organ, the first option is USB, so I have USB. So I hit select. And it says load. That's not what I want to do. I want to save. So I'm going to move that. Oh, there it is. Save. Select, because that's what I want to do. And it says scroll to access USB. Now watch this, folks. This is my USB with a bunch of stuff on it. That's why it takes a few seconds on this one. Yeah. Now you see what it says in red? That means there's something there. Plus, this is also from the Prestige, so I can't take anything in from a bigger model and put it in. But I'm going to scroll until I find a blank spot. I'm going to go backwards. You can see there's, okay, so you see where it's kind of in sort of a grayed out. So if I wanted to, I could save it there and then hit select. Oh. Sorry. At this point, I got to type in what I want to save it as, and then I can go. Do I do that here? No. Oh, I did. I hit the wrong one. I should use that keyboard he put up there. But you'll see here. See the letters changing? On the first one there. I can space over, name it whatever I want, etc. And when I'm done, I hit select, and then what it'll say is scroll to save. Okay? So it's very similar to what I did on the SE and the SU are very similar in nature. The Holiday Classic is similar, so if you're saving. Now, for the sake of, because I know a few of you are here, and I'm going to just do one more, and then I'll close off with a little number for you. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is this is a topic that a lot of organs have these features on it, and not many people save stuff to their USBs. And it's a shame, because that feature could be the one thing that helps you save a setup that you want. So what I'm going to do is come over here for you touchscreen people. All right. And I'm not going to go through the whole process, but you'll see the same Okay, so there's the screen. All right. So on your screen, you have USB, and then you have two screens. It'll show up there, but if you have the one, this will come up, and then you save presets. Now again, it's got to access my USB. There's a lot of stuff on it. But it's basically the same process as what I just told you. The only difference is that instead of using the bottom keyboard for your alphabet, you see there's a lot of stuff on here. You know, I go to 14 is blank. You can save over it. You can then type in the letters right here, move over your arrow, etc., 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 etc. Okay? Now I'm not going to save that, but when you're done, you would just hit save. I know some of you have the touch screen, so they did make that a little bit easier for you when you get to that point. And I'm moving you all around. That's no fun. Let me go back to here. Okay. So, having said that, I'm going to finish off with a little last number. Before I do you have any questions? Stephen, you have a question? You have to unmute yourself there. There you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that if you've gone through all this process to program into a bank A, B, or whatever, and you don't save it to your USB, then you said that if I reset the organ, I lose it.
Well, yeah, yes and no. And let me explain the different resets that you have on the instrument, okay?
Well, before you do, Robert, let me just finish the thought. I believe that also if I should load another set of presets into the organ without having saved what I just did, then I also lose it.
Yeah, so let me answer all those questions for you in one swoop. All right, so if you save presets to the organ, they're there on the organ. If you turn off the organ and you turn it back on, those sounds should still be there. Okay?
I understand.
All right. And when I'm answering your question, but I'm telling everybody too, because I know there's some people that don't use this feature a lot. And if you do, now, a lot of the organs have a reset button here. If you press that reset button, that does not get rid of the presets in the organ. Okay? So I turn on the organ. I push reset, sorry. I'm going to push A1 and listen. There's the sound that I saved earlier. So when I say reset, I should be a little bit more specific. So when you save a preset on the organ, the two things that will not delete those is by turning off the organ or pushing the reset button by the power. Because that reset button by the power is almost like cycling it on and off all in one swoop. It's like turning it on and off. Okay, so it won't get rid of it that way. However, if you do a total reset, either through the screen or what we call the 5-finger reset that the organ, some people do, that reset will get rid of the presets, because that's what it's doing. It's resetting the organ back to factory. Some of you have the option to do a reset presets only. That will also get rid of them. And yes, the minute you load in some presets into the bank presets here, you're loading in presets into there, replacing it with whatever you have on your storage. So I think I answered that question 5 different ways, and I hope that you all got that. That makes sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any others? Any other questions?
So what was the total reset? When would we ever do that?
What organ do you have?
Odyssey.
Okay. So most of the organs have a total reset feature in the screen. You hit feature and you scroll. If it does not exist in the screen, we do what's called a 5-finger reset. All right? And the 5-finger reset is, and the trick to this is you want to keep your volume down when you're doing this, okay? Because if you don't, you're going to get this. It's going to sound bad. But what you do is, and if you want to write this down, you start from the top. Well, it's better when the organ is off to do this, and keep your expression pedal down, okay? Because otherwise it's going to sound bad. Pinky on the C, ring finger on B. You're going to use 5 fingers. Middle finger on A. Skip the G, go to F and E. So C, B, A, F, E from the top. If you have one of those notes not pressed, or if you have an extra note pressed, it won't work. C, B, A, F, and E. And when I turn the organ on, while I'm holding those notes in the organ, I'll get a message, and it says total reset. Some of the organs will actually, you'll hear the sound. Listen. That should sound very annoying. That's why I said you want to keep your volume down when you do that. That's another way to do a total reset. On some of the models, you have 2 ways. On the organ, the 5-finger reset, or through the touch screen.
Why would we do that?
What's that?
What's its purpose?
These are computers. If you want to just get it back to a factory setting, as you're using the instrument and you're making setting changes and you're doing this or that, you may change the volume settings or this or that. Sometimes these things do things that don't make sense to us. I had, for example, this top of the line organ over here. There was one of the buttons that wasn't working, and nothing just wasn't working. I did a total reset, and that was 3 months ago, and it hasn't had that problem. Every now and then, these things do things that they're not supposed to. Sometimes resetting. Sometimes my phone does things that it's not supposed to or locks up. Sometimes I have to just reset it. My watch was doing stuff that wasn't supposed to, and you just got to do a reset once in a while. Or maybe you have some stuff in there you don't like, or you just want to reset it to the factory. So there are many reasons why. Sometimes it's to fix something that's doing it that you don't want it to do, or what have you. Okay? All right, any other questions? Last question. All right, I'll close this off with let's see, a little bit of music for you. And let me see here. So I'm going to give you the option of telling me which category first person speaks gets to choose the category.
Broadway.
Latin.
Someone said Broadway, and someone said Latin. So what happens is when you put on a Broadway and a Latin together, you get this. Because I want to do them both. So you get a...
Robert, we can't see you, by the way.
Oh, you can't. Let me turn off my camera and put it back.
We see a little cat wagging its tail.
Oh, yes. All right. Actually, I'll just do a little bit of both. Here we go. A little Broadway and... Oh, there's 3 different Broadways. There's New York Swing, there's Soliloquy, there's Sleigh Bells. And let's see, we'll just do the regular Broadway here. Here we go. Another way I use the transpose. Here we go. This is what I said earlier. Half a step up. Let's see if I can pull this off. playing a Latin piece using the Broadway. I'm playing a song called Miami Beach Rumba. I heard it by Joni recently. And I'm using the Broadway style, but I brought it down to 120, and then I put on my Latin category preset. It's the only way I could appease both of you. Broadway Latin.
Nice.
So there we
I
go. That was my
that.
Broadway Latin number. Thank you very much.
That was
But
nice.
I'll repeat what I said. I used the Broadway, which normally came up at 138 in the rhythm preset, which is a nice big organ sound. And then partway through, I turned off the Orchestra Plus, went down to 120, and I used Latin category number 1, which was the trumpet. And I played a Latin piece with it.
Oh, yes.
And you know what? If I started off with it that way, you probably wouldn't have known it was the Broadway style. So anyway, I'm going to strongly encourage you that if you're saving a preset on the organ tends to be a little easier for people because all I have to remember is memorize A1 with a style or not memorize. It's the same process over and over and over. Saving it onto the USB or floppy is a little bit harder for some. I'm going to encourage you to really set up a time with a personal assistant. You can Zoom. They can have you sitting at the organ, Zoom with you individually, do it one-on-one. We have this technology, folks. Let's use it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the class today. If you have any questions, reach out to your personal assistants, get in touch with them. And as always, stay safe, keep playing music, and mwah!
Very good.
Bye.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thanks, Robert.
Good job. Good
See you
job.
real soon.